let's go out to the hotline. You're going to hear him tomorrow on the pregame show. He does a tremendous job breaking things down for us here at the station and over at Cleveland.com as well. Lance Reisland, Coach Ray's joining us. Lance, appreciate you giving us some time this morning, my man. Thank you.
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Good morning, Lance.
Lance.
Good morning.
we want to spend most of this conversation just strictly talking about like the quarterback stuff and Shedeur and sort of focused on that. I'm sure you'll talk more about it tomorrow as well. But I guess first and foremost, how valuable are those reps that Shedeur got this week in terms of preparing for a game, going from just going in cold on Sunday to now being the starter this week? And how much do you think that is going to impact this play tomorrow?
Well, there's only, at every level of football, there's only a couple days of real hard preparation. There's only a couple days. There's only so many reps, between 40 and 60 team reps he's actually going to get. So I don't think that's going to make a big difference. I think what's going to make a difference for him is knowing he's going to be the starter. So allowed him to kind of prepare. I believe those first 15 plays are crucial for him and the Browns, if winning is still the thing. The thing about the rep thing, Dan Labby said Repgate, and I thought that was pretty funny because everybody's saying it's unfair. And what I've learned in my short time of being down there a bunch, nothing's fair about the NFL. If you look at Nick Chubb and things that have happened. So, I look for him. I think he wanted to play better. I don't think that was an excuse for him. I think he owned it. He played very poorly. And as I said with Dylan, the good thing is that now he's a starter after playing poorly is you want to see these guys go through highs and lows. And same thing you did for Dylan. And I've been adamant about that. I have not thought Dylan has played terrible at all. The one thing that I thought he has struggled with is being impactful. So hopefully, knowing he's the starter, getting those team reps, even in individual, where you're throwing to receivers and all, hopefully all those kind of reps. But he's got a lot of banked in. He seems to work really hard. You and I watched him every day at practice. He works hard. We'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope everybody's just kind of open to the highs and lows that will come with a rookie starting quarterback like with Dylan.
Lance, what are the biggest differences game plan-wise from a Dylan Gabriel offense to a Shedeur Sanders offense? And as an offensive coordinator, how hard is that to transition over mid-season?
I've heard a lot about that, but both of these guys are pretty good in this scheme. I think obviously Dylan, has been pretty successful on the run, but Shedeur can move too. I don't think the offense changes too much. If you go back to like Flacco, who can't move at all, you take those boots and waggles when they're changing the launch point, and all you do as a coordinator is you just change your protection a little bit, and he doesn't quite stay on the run. He sets up after the fake. So for me, I've heard a lot of people talk about how much different it is, and I really don't think. I think both of these guys really are good in this system. Play action, it being an empty. I see empty being a really important formation for these guys tomorrow because it gives a quarterback a really clear picture. Something Shedeur did very well at Colorado, so I think you'll see that in the first scripted plays. But for me, everybody's talked about, the scheme. I don't see a huge difference in the scheme, and I don't see a huge difference either how they're going to call things. Both of these guys fit the scheme well, and I think that'll benefit them because they don't have to change it too much, and he's learned all the same stuff, for the last, 3-4 months. So I think mentally he'll be ready to go, and we'll see. I think he's a gamer, so we'll see if that comes to fruition tomorrow.
I agree with you on that gamer point as well. Join us on the fan hotline. Lance Reisland here, spending a few minutes with us just to talk about Shedeur's first start tomorrow. You sort of mentioned this, Lance, a little bit, but one thing Dylan does really well is he's more prone to like making sure he protects the football, trying to make those right decisions. And I think that's part of the reason why at the time that Kevin Stefanski made the switch, he felt inclined to do so because Joe Flacco was just turning the ball over too much, and they needed to at least eliminate those from what the offense was doing when they already have so many deficiencies elsewhere. So I think there's something commendable in that, but I also think like Shedeur, I think Shedeur is going to be less gun shy on sort of making some of those throws that he feels like, all right, I got to try to put this one in a spot and make a play. And I do think that's important for all great quarterbacks. I think all great quarterbacks have to sort of be willing to at times take those chances. It's just when you start taking too many of them, you become Jameis Winston, and then it's a problem again. So I guess what I'm trying to ask here is, how do you strike that balance between taking on some risk and trying to force some of those throws that are tougher throws, but that need to be made sometimes to help the offense or push the ball downfield or that come with being a great quarterback versus trying to just straight up protect the football at all costs and not give the other team the freebies?
Well, for me, it all comes down to winning, Spencer. So whatever you got to do to win. In this game tomorrow, this might not be the game that he stretches the ball downfield. If winning is still the priority here for the Browns, which it should be, because everybody talks about culture, and if your culture is not winning, then you have a terrible culture. So I don't think, for me, it all comes down to winning. So against this defense that's not very good tomorrow, he might hand the ball off a bunch, and that's okay. One of the terms I always tell people is that the term game manager has turned into a negative connotation. Now, there might be a game down the road if Shedeur's the starter, Dylan's the starter, where they're going to have to carry the load. But again, for this team to win, you have to protect that defense. And I don't think this offense they're facing tomorrow can go 80 yards. So, obviously, if you have to make some throws, make the throws. But if you need to protect the ball and punt and make the other team go 90 yards, a team that's really struggling to do that, you have to do that as well, because that tells everybody in that locker room that winning is still the most important thing. So, people talk about performance. For me, it starts with the win. Do you get the win, and then you build from there? And obviously, there'll be some things he needs to work on. But for me, when they say game manager, tomorrow might be a game where he has to make a couple throws and hand the ball off a bunch and protect the defense. That's okay, too. Then you get down the road when you face some of these tougher teams, maybe he has to carry it. That's what a game manager is. You're kind of doing whatever it takes to win. So that's what I want to see out of him. I want to see operation. I want to see his ability to get in and out of the huddle. I want to see him take risks, but calculated risk. And a risk is you see what you see and you believe in it and you rip it. Sometimes mistakes happen. That's part of football. But again, are they doing what's best to win? That's the most important thing for whoever's a quarterback.
Lance, I know you've been on the offensive line in your film breakdowns constantly and how kind of poorly they've played at certain parts in the year. So how well or how poorly do you think that run-heavy offensive approach is going to work out tomorrow?
Well, the run game is always better for offensive linemen. If you look at KT Levinson, and I like watching him on film, he has not been good at pass protection, but I'm looking at effort. He's losing because they're asking him to do things he just can't do right now. But his effort is really good. Cam Robinson did some really nice things in the run game last week. These guys have, the run game and the physical run game, especially the gap schemes, allow these guys to think a lot less. And I always want, I don't want reactionary guys. I want attacking guys up front. So I think going to the gap scheme will help them a little bit. They've had some really good runs with Junkins with the gap scheme. I think it's huge. And, the thing that has been frustrating for me watching the Browns going back to when Callahan was here, Callahan always told you the why. So it wasn't we're blocking this guy, it's why we're blocking this guy and where this guy is going to be on this particular look with this particular front. These are grown men who have played offensive line their whole lives. They kind of know the techniques, and obviously they stress those a lot. But the thing that I think is missing since Callahan left is that why. Here's where this linebacker is going to be in this particular scheme. That's what they have to get back to. And if they can get back to that, and gap scheme is a little bit easier than zone. So I think it's huge tomorrow, and I think these guys, it's kind of a motivation to get the run game going. Everybody's telling these guys how bad they are. You either prove them right or prove them wrong. So I expect, especially those interior guys, to play pretty aggressive tomorrow. This is a defensive line that can absolutely be moved off the ball tomorrow.
Getting back to the quarterbacks for a second, Lance, when it comes to especially a young quarterback and evaluating them, what is a fair amount of time to sort of watch them play and give them before we can sort of draw conclusions about who they are? And I don't want to insinuate, by the way, that the 5.5 games for Dylan was purely enough to know, or that if Shedeur played the rest of the season, these last 7 games, that would be enough to know. I don't think that small of a sample size game-wise can really tell us the big picture, especially because look around this league, right? There's plenty of guys who they maybe struggle for a whole season their rookie year, and then it takes maybe a year or 2 or 3 to really sort of come on. But at what point as a talent evaluator are you sort of able to compartmentalize and say, okay, we think we have a pretty clear picture of who this guy is going to be at this level, and he is or isn't going to be the right fit for us, essentially?
Well, it's really hard because right now the Browns offense lacks so much talent, especially at the receiver position, especially the ability to, this is a consistent guys who can get the ball and get out of jail free. And as an offense coordinator for a long time, I always had plays that were we're not blocking well, we're not doing things well. I'm just going to throw it to this guy because he's better than everybody else. And when you look at the Browns, they don't have a guy like that. So the evaluation process, I would say for Shedeur tomorrow, and it has been for Dylan, is can he raise the level of play of his players around him? Can he make Judy? Can he get him touches? Can he get Tillman involved? Fannin, Njoku? Can he make throws on third medium? Can he use his feet? And just kind of the impact he has. And like I said, I have tons and tons of throws that I've broken down that Dylan has thrown very, very well. The problem is he hasn't made big-time throws in big-time situations. The impact, he has not had a ton of impact. So what kind of impact does he have tomorrow? And, once again, that's when Kevin said that when Dylan played really, really poorly and he said he was a starter next week, that should be really exciting for all Browns fans. And the reason why is because they're going to do the same thing now with Shedeur. They're going to kind of see through the highs and lows and the operation and obviously putting more and more on his plate each week. And can he handle it? And does he see coverages and blitzes and things like that? So, is he seeing it? Is he, like my dad always said, are you seeing it? Are you seeing the coverage? You seeing the blitz? Are you going to the right spot? Sometimes you throw a bad ball. So I think it's just the impact he has around the players around him. We know, I'm old, so the history, going back 45 years of football here, usually when you don't have a super supportive cast, you're going to go through some highs and lows because those guys can't make plays for you at times. So can he improve those guys? Can he make those guys better players than they've been playing? I think that's going to be the things we see tomorrow or want to see tomorrow.
Lance, I don't want to exhaust this conversation too much because I know you got plenty more to share tomorrow, obviously. But I was going to ask real quick, do you think that coats are overrated?
Like winter coats?
Yeah. Okay. So for some context, Earl called in at 9:40. He's at a charity event today giving out turkeys. And his say it with your chest, which we do at the end of the show, was that if you have a car, you don't need a coat. Like if you have a car, you just drive in your car, you get out, you walk to where you're walking, you're going to go indoors again, you don't need a coat. And I think that is absolutely preposterous. There's some days where it's so cold that you're like, no, I'm wearing a coat when I get out of my car. But what say you on whether or not you should be wearing coats?
All right, so back in my younger days, I would say, no coach, just because I didn't want to put it down anywhere or anything like that and lose it because I'm forgetful. But as I've gotten older, I'm all about coats. I don't know if it's because I stood outside for so long, coaching for so many years in the cold, but I don't do cold anymore.
Did you wear a coat? Did you wear a coat during snow games when you were coaching, or were you the guy who was, or were you like David Njoku who's just like, I'm going to wear as little as possible?
Oh no, I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy. I'm not the assistant O-line, the O-line guy who's got shorts on there. No, I was bundled up, especially as I got later in my career. Give me hats, give me scarves, give me gloves. I'm looking for comfort. No longer do I need to impress. Absolutely. I'm all for coats. I think coats are mandatory. I don't care if you're going to the movies and you park in the front row and it's 15 steps. Put a jacket on. Absolutely put a jacket on.
All right, Lance. I appreciate you chiming in on our ongoing debate here. You can find him, of course, right here tomorrow morning at the station as he gets you ready for kickoff between the Browns and Raiders. You can also find him on Twitter at Lance Reisland. He does a tremendous job for both us and Cleveland.com, breaking things down each and every single week. Lance, thanks for stopping by, man. We're making you work overtime by having you on both days this weekend, but thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me. Great show, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
No doubt. Thank you, Lance. No doubt. Thanks, Lance. Yeah, good stuff from him, as always.